By what name are you known?
There are some who call me... Tim?
Welcome to another episode of Timmy Talks, the channel where we talk old school magic. And today we are back in Utrecht, the Netherlands, for more action from DadBodCon. And in today's match we're going to see Joep versus Denzel, and they've got two beautiful decks. But before I start talking about that, just a quick reminder, DadBodCon is a Magic the Gathering 1993 tournament. What does that mean? That means we're playing with the core sets Alpha, Beta and Unlimited. And we are playing with Arabian Nights. That's the only expansion set that's allowed because that was printed in 1993. If you want to know more about the rules, please check out the description below because I've got all the information in the show notes. Now in today's match we're going to see Joep, who is on a 5-color good stuff deck, and his deck includes a veteran bodyguard. So it's really good stuff. It's beautiful black bordered, and he's taking on Denzel, and Denzel's playing a classic deck. It's Erhnam Burn'Em. So Erhnam Djinn, green and red, lots of burn, lots of big creatures, cool creatures. So a very strong classic deck taking on a 5-color good stuff deck that's fully powered. I think this is going to be a really exciting and close match. Now before I jump into the deck text, I would just like to point out that as always you can also choose to go to the games first, check out the deck text later. I know some people prefer to do that. The easiest way to do this is by checking out the description below. There you will find several timestamps. One of the timestamps reads MTG Games, and in that same description below you can also find a link to the Timmy Talks Patreon page, and that is patreon.com/TimmyTalks. So if you'd like to support the show, if you'd like to help me continue making this content for you, please consider becoming a patron. Joep, for example, is already a patron, the player on the left. Thank you so much for supporting the show. So yeah, if you also want to support Timmy Talks, please take a moment to check out patreon.com/TimmyTalks for all the information. Okay, so now that you're fully informed, I'm going to continue with the deck text. I'm going to start with the player on the left, that is Joep. Let's take a look at his 5-color good stuff deck. And here we see the deck of Joep. So this is really a 5-color good stuff deck, and the main color in here obviously is white. That right side is completely white, right? We see Sarah Angel, King Suleiman, which I think is going to be really cool in this matchup because remember, you can tap the king to destroy target Efreet or Djinn, and guess what? He's playing against Erhnam Djinns today, so that could be fun. And he's also playing with a single veteran bodyguard, and I'm just really happy to see this card finally coming back in the deck again. I remember as a little Timmy, when I was 11, I used to think this was a really good card, and now of course I know that the card's actually not that great, but I still love the card. I still think it's so cool. What does it do? Well, it's actually a 2/5 for 2 white and 3 that reads, as long as veteran bodyguard is untapped, all damage that would be dealt to you by unblocked creatures is dealt to the veteran bodyguard instead. So it can soak up damage. That's pretty good, but it only has 5 toughness. So, you know, if you attack with your Shivan, it's going to die to the Shivan. If you attack with 2 Sarah Angels, it's going to die. And, you know, so it's just not that great. If it had regeneration, or if maybe it had 7 toughness, it would make the card a lot better. But it is what it is. And like I said, as a little Timmy, I used to think the card was really good. And then as you get to know Magic better and better, you start to realize it's not all that useful. And then, of course, we see that white control package, right? Disenchant, Swords to Plowshares, Balance. One of the reasons that white is such a popular color is because of these powerful spells. And then we see a little bit of blue. Only the power has been added here in the deck. A lot of people do that. Of course, they just splash the blue power. That's it. And then we see a little bit of black in the form of Demonic Tutor. We see a Nettling Imp and a Jusum Djinn. That Nettling Imp could be quite useful in combination with the Icy Manipulator. That's kind of a way to get rid of creatures. That's pretty cool to see. And then we also see a little bit of red. We see Shivan Dragon, beautiful black bordered Shivan, a Fireball and a Wheel of Fortune. And then in green, we see a Regrowth. Regrowth, of course, always really good if you're playing with power because then you can get that power back. And a single Berserk, which I think is going to be quite good because Berserk doubles the power, and there are a lot of powerful creatures in the deck. I mean, Jusum Djinn, Shivan Dragon, and 4 Juggernauts, they all have a power of 5. If they attack and you play a Berserk on it, you've got 10 trample damage coming to your opponent's way, and with Shivan, that could be even more. Shivan, a great target for that single Berserk, and I love Berserk as a one-off. I think it's going to do some work here in this deck. And then, of course, we have a Birds of Paradise, pretty good for mana fixing because, yeah, he is playing, of course, 5 colors, so maybe he needs that Birds of Paradise. Then again, he's got all the Moxins, got the Black Lotus. I mean, it's looking pretty solid. White is the main color, right? So he's playing with a lot of white sources with those dual lands. you know, he also has a lot of useful artifacts for Juggernauts, like I said, 2 Icy Manipulators, and he's got 2 Jam Tomes to draw some cards, and of course a beautiful black bordered Chaos Orb. I have to say, this deck picture, it's beautiful. I love it. So this is the deck of Joep. What else can I say about it? 5-color good stuff, looking pretty strong. Let's take a look at the deck of his opponent. And here we see the deck of Denzel. So this is green and red, and this is really a classic deck, Erhnam Burn'Em, built around the Erhnam Djinns and the Burn. Erhnam Djinn, 4 mana for a 4/5. Those are very impressive stats for that amount of mana. And then, of course, he's playing with the Burn, 4 Lightning Bolts, 2 Fireballs, and a Disintegrate. So this is a very explosive and aggressive deck. Besides the Burn, he's also playing with 4 Giant Growths, playing with 3 Berserk. So he really wants to pump up his creatures and just deal a lot of damage. And I mean, he's playing with cards like Elvish Archers, Curd Apes. Those are cheap creatures, cheap to cast early. Put a Giant Growth on it, put a Berserk on it, and before you know it, you've dealt 10 damage to your opponent, or maybe even more. This is really a quick and aggressive deck. Then on the top end, he's playing a single Shivan Dragon. Now, the big card that I'm missing here, oh, and by the way, he's playing a Channel, so Channel Fireball is very possible with this deck. So yeah, this is basically what we can share about Denzel's deck. There's one creature, though, that I want to highlight that's in the sideboard. That's the 2/2 Ogre. It's super cool. So it's a 2/2 creature from Arabian Nights for 1 green. So those are great stats. However, during your upkeep, it's going to go to whoever has more life. So if your opponent has more life, it's going to stab you in the back, and it's going to go to the opponent and starts to attack you, which I think is very flavorful, but it makes it a very dangerous card to play with. I think in this matchup, it could be useful coming in from the sideboard. Why? Because his opponent is not playing with any burn, well, just a single fireball, and his opponent is playing with Swords to Plowshares. That's actually going to give you life. So, on the other hand, now that I'm thinking about it, he could also use the swords to gain life to steal your Gasban Ogre, but why would he do that? He's not going to do that. Anyway, could be useful to come in game 2. I'm going to keep a close eye on that. Hopefully, I'm going to see some Gasban Ogres in this matchup. It's such a funny card, so I'm really hoping, Denzel, that you're going to board it in. Anyway, this is the deck of Denzel. We looked at the deck of Joep, and that means we are ready. Let's go to the match. Game number 1, here we go. So it's Joep sitting on the left, playing 5-color good stuff, starting with a Scrubland, passing the turn to Denzel. And Denzel is on Erhnam Burn'Em, so that's green and red. And look at him go here. What a nice opening for him. Taiga into Curd Ape, the classic opener. And remember, Curd Ape gets a +1/+2 bonus if you have a forest. And Taiga, of course, is a forest as well. So it becomes a 2/3 for just 1 mana. That's not too bad. And we see Joep here in turn 2 playing a Plateau into a Demonic Tutor. I wonder what he's going to go for. Maybe just a duel to get the right mana. Maybe a Black Lotus to do something explosive. Or maybe just an Ancestral Recall because he's got another blue source in his hand. We'll just have to wait and see. It looks like he's not 100% sure himself. Going to go back to his hand to check out what he actually has. And maybe this is a nice moment for me to also explain something about the setup of this tournament. This tournament was played in Utrecht, the Netherlands, and we played a total of 6 rounds. There was no top 8. And at the end of the day, the best performing deck was the winner. And here we see Joep kind of making a selection, what to do. And the upside of this tournament setup is that everybody stays, you know, everybody plays the full 6 rounds. And the tournament doesn't take as long. The thing is, when you have like a traditional tournament with the top 8, which I love, by the way, in a finals, these days can take very, very long. Sometimes it's like 12 o'clock at night, sometimes it's 2 in the morning. And that's, of course, not always doable for everybody there. Here we see the Curd Ape attacking, putting Joep here on 18. Ooh, there's a channel. Oh, could he do Channel Fireball? I mean, he needs 1 more mana. 2 more Curd Apes. I do see a channel. Not quite sure if there was a Fireball. I saw some red cards. Could be a Lightning Bolt as well. But look at this army of Curd Apes. 3 Curd Apes on the side of Denzel. Here we see a Mox Sapphire. Gonna tap 2. There's a Time Walk. Okay, gonna take an extra turn, but that's not that scary for Denzel. I'm sure he was more worried about seeing a balance here, because that would be quite devastating for Denzel. Here we see another Plateau. So he's got 4. Remember, he's playing with a full playset of Juggernauts. That would be at least a blocker for him. Gonna tap a blue. There we see Ancestral Recall. So perhaps he looked up the Ancestral Recall with the Demonic Tutor. Trying to find an answer to the 3 Curd Apes. There we see a Mox Ruby. Tapping 4 in total. Okay, there's a Fireball just to kill a Curd Ape. I mean, this is not that bad for Denzel. This could have been a lot worse. He's passing the turn. Denzel's untapping. 2 Curd Apes are still alive. There we see a Mountain. So could attack here for 4. Put him on 14. Exactly. There he goes. Interesting way of tapping those apes. I do see that channel, but I guess the other card there is a Granite Gargoyle and a Lightning Bolt, so he doesn't have the Fireball. And he's played out the Granite Gargoyle, so the 2/2 flyer. And you can pump the toughness for 1 red plus 0 plus 1. Let's see what Joep can do. He's got a lot of mana, 6. Remember, he's playing with some pretty big creatures, including a Shivan Dragon. Tapping 4. Okay, there's a Juggernaut. Has a full playset of Juggernauts in the deck. And I think that's wise when you're playing 5 colors, because the Juggernaut you can always cast. I wonder what Denzel wants to do. Could keep the Gargoyle in blocking duty. Oh, of course, there's that Lightning Bolt we saw earlier, and now he can attack for 6. It's looking pretty good for Denzel. I mean, Joep's already on 8. And he's used a lot of powerful spells. Demonic Tutor's in the bin. Ancestral Recall's in the bin. Time Walk's in the bin. Fireball's in the bin. And if you look at the graveyard of Denzel, you only see a single Lightning Bolt and a Curd Ape. Oh, look at this! Shivan Dragon hitting the board. 5/5 powerhouse. That is really powerful. Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see what Denzel's going to do. I believe he's got a Giant Growth in hand, so he could just turn everything sideways, keep attacking, and play Giant Growth on whatever creature Joep decides to block. And that's exactly what he does here. Everything into the red zone. Attacking with 2 Curd Apes and the Granite Gargoyle, blocking here the Curd Ape on the Shivan. Yeah, I mean, he could also play, of course, a Giant Growth on one of the unblocked creatures. Playing it on the blocked one instead. I think I would have done the same. Are we going to see a Swords to Plowshares now on the ape? No, we're not. Of course, he's got to pump the Shivan for 6, because then Curd Ape has 6 toughness. That's why he tapped. For a moment, I thought he was going to cast his Swords to Plowshares. But nope, just making the trade. He's on 4 now, by the way. And Joep having 3 cards in hand. Going to tap 4. Are we going to see another Juggernaut? That's what we are going to see. And an Icy Manipulator. Yeah, he's pretty much dead, but playing out his turn, passing it back here to Denzel. And all he has to do is turn everything sideways, I think. Although, no. No, he misses 1 point. He can put him on 1, so he's going to fly over. Going to put him on 2. I believe he has a Mountain and it's a Channel there in hand, so completely useless for now. Passing the turn. There's a Serra Angel, so Joep is actually stabilizing here while he is on 2. That is pretty insane. He's on 2 and he's stabilizing. Has to attack, of course. It's going to go to 15 probably. I would at least take the damage. Going to drop to 15. This is tough for Denzel. Needs a Lightning Bolt. What is that card in hand there? Couldn't see it. This is tough. He is playing with a lot of burn, but if you can't find it, you can't find it. Gonna tap 2 or not. Untapping again. Really wonder what that 1 card is. Could, of course, consider attacking with everything, but then he would only deal 1 damage and lose one of his creatures to the Serra Angel. So it's probably not a good strategy. Gonna tap 2 here. Okay, there's an Elvish Archer. It's a 2/1 first strike. Tapping down the Granite Gargoyle. Perhaps next turn he can win. Has to attack here. I would take the 9 damage. It's a lot, but I would take it. You go down to 6. Next turn you can win. Oh, he's gonna jump. I wouldn't have done that, to be honest. I would have just taken the damage. I get it. You can still win now. That's true. But I think I would have just taken the damage, but it doesn't matter. I guess he's going to attack. And of course he can block one creature down, block one creature, tap one creature down. So he's going to tap the Gargoyle. Then there's the attack with both. Are we going to see a Swords to Plowshares or not? Or is it game here for Denzel? Yep, game number one, won by Denzel. And now both players are going to dive into their sideboards. And we will catch back up with them in game number 2. Game number 2, here we go. Joep on the play after losing that first game. I believe I see a Shivan Dragon there in hand for Denzel. Did he just take a double mulligan here, by the way? 3 Moxstone. Look at that, hands empty. Juggernaut turn 1. What an insane start. And man, it's looking bad for Joep though. Exactly, there we see a lightning bolt. And if you're Joep, you really have to hope to draw into a Wheel of Fortune or a Timetwister. Ancestral Recall could be good, Balance could be good. So he's got some outs, but it's not a great start for him. And Denzel has a slow start. More Moxen for Joep, really not what he's looking for. Remember, he's already a game down. There's a pass. There we see an Icy Manipulator and a pass turn. I think I would have tapped down one of the lands, to be honest, with the Icy. There we see an Erhnam. And now Joep can, of course, tap down the Erhnam on end step. I mean, there's no real reason to. Just you just want to use your mana efficiently. Okay, there we see a Swords to Plowshares. So 4 life here for Denzel. I mean, if you're Joep, you really want to draw some card draw. Ancestral Recall, Timetwister, Wheel of Fortune, maybe one of the 2 Gem Day Tomes. You can kind of get back into it. Like I said, a Balance could be good as well. Balance actually would be pretty brutal because a Joep only has 1 land and an almost empty hand. Anyway, let's see what Denzel can do. There's a Shivan Dragon playing with a single Shivan in the deck. Luckily for Joep, he's got that Icy Manipulator. I wonder if Denzel boarded in the two Shatters. Untapping here the Shivan, tapping the Shivan down immediately. There's a Curd Ape from the top for Denzel, so that's good because I believe he also has a Berserk there in hand. So if he has, for example, a Giant Grove Berserk, he could deal 10 damage with that single Curd Ape. And here we see Joep digging a little bit further. He's got 3 cards in hand. But what an insane start for him here in game 2. With that turn 1 Juggernaut and 3 Moxen in his hand. Yeah, this is really good Demonic Tutor. Okay, this is what he needs. I wonder if he's going to go for Balance. I mean, he's got a few options here. He could go for Balance, would be pretty brutal for Denzel. Maybe that's the right thing to do. Another thing to do is just go for a draw 7. Are we going to see the Balance? Oh, we're going to see a Time Walk? I'm pretty sure he didn't look up the Time Walk. And a Timetwister. Okay, so he probably had Timetwister in hand or Time Walk in hand and looked for the other part. Of course, Timetwister, Time Walk is really, really good. In response, we're going to see a Lightning Bolt. And no Red Elemental Blasts for Denzel. And I mean, that's a tricky thing. If you're playing against these players who playing these good stuff decks, they usually only have 3 blue cards that they play. That's the blue power. They're really, really good, but are you really going to board in your Red Elemental Blast? Because it's going to be a dead card in a lot of cases. But then every time you run into a Time Walk, Ancestral Recall, or this Timetwister Time Walk play, you think, oh, I wish I had a Red Elemental Blast. But it's understandable that, of course, you don't board it in, because there are only 3 targets. Anyway, Denzel here shuffling up, Joep shuffling up. And this is exactly what Joep needed, of course. And I think what you're seeing with Joep is really the trust in the deck that it's going to be fine, that he's going to find those cards. And then you need a little bit of luck by finding that Demonic Tutor. And I believe, yeah, now he's taking his extra turn, of course. So yeah, it's looking really good for him now, all of a sudden. There we see another land. So Scrub land hitting the board. He's got a lot of mana to work with because of all those Moxen. 3 Moxen in total. There's a Circle of Protection red coming in from the sideboard. That's going to be quite useful. And I wonder if Denzel boarded into Tranquility, playing 1 Tranquility, I believe, in the side. Counting his mana. Gonna tap 4. There's a Juggernaut. I mean, that Juggernaut, again, it's pretty good, you know. It's got 5 toughness, 5 power, I mean. That's difficult to deal with. And of course, you know, if you have your Bolt, that's the best answer to it. That's nice and clean, only 1 mana. But if you don't, it could become a pretty big problem. So Denzel tapping 3 here. It's got a lot of options. That's an Ice Storm. So Ice Storm here on the scrub land. I don't think it's going to do much here. The mana base of Joep is looking pretty solid. Also has that City of Brass, of course, and the Mox Jet. And he's got enough white sources as well. Tapping 3 here. Are we going to see that Granite Gargoyle, or does he have another option? Yep, there's the Gargoyle. Has another Gargoyle in hand as well, I believe. So that's a 2/2 flyer. And these are all red creatures, by the way. So that is pretty annoying for Joep. He's going to play a forest here. I mean, for Denzel, of course. A forest into Llanowar Elves. Passing the turn. And I wonder if Joep's going to tap anything down there in his own main. Because of the Juggernaut. I mean, if he's going to attack, probably Denzel's going to double block. Perhaps Kurdape Llanowar, or just going to take the damage. He is, of course, on 24. There's the attack. Yep, going to take the damage. Going to drop to 19. I believe there's also a Giant Growth in hand for Denzel, so probably waiting for the moment to play out the Giant Growth and then block the Juggernaut. And Joep is going to tap us at 5 mana. That's 5. Look at that Veteran Bodyguard. How cool is that? Denzel actually has to read the card. That's always a good sign when your opponent picks up the card you played and he's going to read it. That is really cool. That's I always see that as a big compliment. And there's the pass. So a 2/5 creature, and whenever you take damage from creatures, combat damage, that damage is taken by the Veteran Bodyguard instead. So let's say you're attacking with your Shivan, and if Joep didn't have the COP red, then the 5 damage would go on the Bodyguard, and it would kill the Bodyguard. But of course now Joep has that COP red. I think COP red is really the problem here for Denzel. He has to find a way to deal with the Circle of Protection red. 4 cards in hand. I believe, no, there's a Granite Gargoyle, not a Shatter, and there's that other green-black bordered card that could be a Giant Growth. And then 2 other cards that I can't identify. I believe one of those cards might be a land. Okay, there we see the second Granite Gargoyle. Yeah, there's not much that he can do. Look at that, he is attacking with 3 creatures. But that doesn't help because it's gonna get soaked up by the Bodyguard and the COP. There's the double attack. So maybe Denzel has some direct damage in hand, right? That's perhaps something that Joep is worrying about. And now the Veteran is taking the 4 damage. Not even using the COP red here. So Veteran soaking up the damage from the Gargoyles. Really nice to see that card in action. And there we see a Plateau. There's the attack. Look at that. He's taking more damage. Another line that Denzel could have chosen for is not attacking with the Gargoyles and simply keeping a Gargoyle on blocking duty. He's got enough red mana to give it 6 toughness, enabling it to block the Juggernaut, but chose not to, and now he's on 14. There we see another Kurdape. Yeah, more red creatures. The problem really is that Circle of Protection red. That is the big problem for Denzel. Has to really find the tranquility. Passing the turn here. End step, we see Joep tapping down the Shivan Dragon. Drawing a card for turn, I guess. Yep. And I mean, if you're Joep, you're not in a rush. You know that you're eventually going to win this, right? There's an Ancestral Recall. Because I think if you're Denzel, the way to win this game is just by being very, very aggressive very early on. You saw that in game 1 where he had 3 Curd Apes in turn 2. You know, that was mega aggressive, and that was really difficult for Joep to deal with. And remember, Joep actually started this with only 5 cards in hand, a land, 3 Mox, and then a Juggernaut. Yeah, and now we see Denzel blocking it, making his Granite Gargoyle a 2/6. Soaking up the damage. Could have considered double blocking here with the Llanowar Elves, then he could have killed the Juggernaut and just lose a single Llanowar Elves. Then again, Llanowar Elves is your only non-red creature that can actually deal some damage. It's a difficult situation here. There we see a Time Walk. Okay, a little bit surprised about this Time Walk. Is he now going to play out more creatures? I mean, if he's got like a Serra Angel, for example, he could now play Serra Angel next turn, attack with Serra and Juggernaut. He's going to block. Okay, he's going to tap down the Llanowar Elves. Interesting. Doesn't want to give Denzel the ability to chump block or double block with that Llanowar. But we don't see an extra creature. I was kind of expecting that. There we see a double block on the Curd Apes. There's a Berserk here. Okay, going to make it 10 trample damage. So that means 4 damage to Denzel. And he's going to lose both of the Curd Apes. So that's a pretty successful Berserk. And now we see Denzel on 10. And he's counting. Does that mean that he has a Fireball in hand? There we see a Fireball. Is this game? Let's see. 1. Oh, is that a Black Lotus? So he's going to crack the Lotus. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I think 12. So he can play it for 11 and kill Denzel here, who's on 10. Yep. So winning game number 2. So that means it's 1-1. And we're going to go to an all-deciding game. Number 3. Game number 3, here we go. So it's 1-1. Whoever wins this wins the match. We see Joep here taking a mulligan, starting with 6. Denzel on the play, starting with a Llanowar Elves turn 1. And Denzel didn't take a mulligan, so it's looking pretty good for him. Also being on the play. There we see a Tundra, so the white-blue dual land. And there we see a Mox Emerald tapping 2. There's a Time Walk. Yeah, of course, all the power in the deck of Joep is really helping him in this match. There we see a Scrub land. Oh, there's a Swords to Plowshares. So Denzel going to go up to 21. But then again, that is it. So it's not too bad for Denzel. And remember, he's got more cards in hand. There's another Llanowar. Curd Ape would have been really nice here. I do believe I see an Erhnam there in hand as well. So next turn could potentially play an Erhnam. Here we see an Icy Manipulator. There's a Berserk there in hand as well. So is he going to tap 4 for the Erhnam? There's the Erhnam Djinn, 4/5 creature from Arabian Nights. Problem, of course, is that Joep can tap it down with the Icy Manipulator. 3 cards now in hand for Denzel, and I believe also 3 cards in hand there for Joep. There we see a City of Brass. Tap for green there with the Emerald. Tapping the Savannah. There we see a balance. Only 1 card left in hand, and of course no creatures on the board. This is a pretty good balance. He is going to lose a land. And look at that, he's going to choose to dispose the City of Brass. Interesting choice. Because City can make any color mana. Then again, he's got all the mana he needs, I guess. Well, he doesn't have red. I would have been tempted to keep the City of Brass. Tapping down the Forest here in the upkeep. Very good move by Joep. Denying green here for Denzel. There we see a Ruby. I really wonder what that 1 card is in hand for Joep. Perhaps a Shivan, who knows. Tapping down the Forest again. And there's a Granite Gargoyle for Denzel. And just a pass turn here. So I'm just expecting Joep to tap down the Gargoyle here. So Denzel 2 cards in hand. Tapping the green for a Llanowar Elves. Tapping down the Gargoyle. And Joep drawing a card. Was that a Shivan from the top? Doesn't have double red though. Passing the turn. Again, I was surprised that he didn't keep the City of Brass. I understand that you don't want to take damage. I mean, he's got more the control deck in this matchup, but still, City of Brass so good when you're playing a 5-color good stuff deck. Dropping here to 19, drawing a card for turn. 4 cards in hand, passing. And at least Denzel's able to deal a little bit of damage. There's the Shatter. This is a pretty big deal. Of course, he can use it one last time to tap down the Gargoyle. Look at that, tapping down the Llanowar Elves instead. I am surprised. Oh, we have a Swords to Plowshares. Then it makes sense. And Denzel going to go up to 23. And Joep stays on 19. So pretty healthy 19. Finding a Juggernaut from the top. 5/3 creature that has to attack each combat. And Denzel finding a Lightning Bolt. Taking care of the Juggy. Attacking for 1. Putting Joep on 18. Passing the turn. And it's really an interesting third game here. Going up and down. There's another Juggernaut. There we see a Kurdape 2/3 now. But there's no attack for Denzel. Passing the turn. Playing another Tundra. Attacking here with the 5/3 Juggernaut. Are we going to see a double block here? Ooh, there's a Giant Growth. There's a Swords though in response to the Giant Growth. That means 2 more life. And of course the block has already been declared. So no damage here, I believe, for Denzel. But he is going to gain 2 more life. It's going to go up to 25. There's an extra dice. 2 cards in hand. And what an interesting game 3. But Denzel's running out of resources. Only 2 cards left. One of them is a mountain. Attacking here with the Llanowar Elves. Putting Joep here on 17. Denzel, of course, being on a cozy 25. Probably going to drop to 20 here. Exactly. There we see Sarah Angel. Ooh, that is a problem. That is a problem for Denzel. Finding another 4th, kind of slamming it down. It's pretty frustrating if you're just not finding what you want. Attacking here. There we see the block. Are we going to see a Giant Growth? So going to kill the Sarah here, but it is a 2-for-1. And of course, Joep still has the Juggernaut. There's the attack. And was that a second Juggernaut there from the top? Yep, there's his second Juggernaut. So he's drawn 3 Juggernauts in total. And I have to say those Juggernauts are quite impressive. So next turn he can slam in for 10. And Denzel is in top decking mode. Gonna draw a card for turn. Tap 2. Okay, there's a Shatter at least taking care of one of the Juggernauts. Denzel being on 15. Probably gonna drop to 10 here. Tapping 4 more. Oh, there's a Juzam Jin hitting the board as well. Very powerful creatures. Denzel on 10. So he's going to die next turn unless he's got an answer. Okay, there's an Erhnam. So at least he can trade the Erhnam for the Juggernaut. So he can survive 1 more turn. But it's looking very, very, very bad here for Denzel. Has to block one of the 2 creatures. Probably going to go for the Juggernaut. Exactly going to make the trade. Take 5. Drop to 5. Ooh, it's so close. Joep is so close to winning it here. 1-1. Game number 3. There's another blocker though. That Elvish Archer can stop the Juzam at least for 1 more turn. Or not. There's the Bolt. And then there's the attack with the Juzam. Winning it here. Game number 3. Look at that. He had a Shivan in hand. Yeah, I was surprised that he didn't choose to keep the City of Brass. I think that Shivan has been in your hand for quite a while there, Joep. But you are winning it here with a 2-1 victory over Denzel. Here we see the deck, and I'm just very happy that we got to see the Veteran Bodyguard in action. That was my personal highlight, and I have to say I also have a soft spot for Juggernaut. Like back in the day when I was a little Tim, everybody played the Juggernaut, and today, it still sees some play like in your deck, but not that often anymore. And, you know, it's boltable, I know, but still, it's 5 power, it's only 4. It's 4 generic mana, so it's easy to cast, especially in a format with so many Mox. And I like it. Call me crazy, I like it. Anyway, this was another match played at DadBodCon. Now, if you enjoyed these matches, there is another one coming up, and I'm also going to show you the final. So I believe I've got 2 more matches coming up after this one, perhaps. Yeah, 2 more matches. So if you don't want to miss a thing, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring that bell. And if you're already subscribed, thank you so much for supporting the show and following the videos right here on Timmy Talks. Please take a moment to like, share, and comment on this video. All these things are free and really help the channel move forward. And talking about moving forward, you can also become a patron of the show. Check out patreon.com/TimmyTalks. And when you become a patron, there's some cool stuff happening. You get access to the Timmy Talks Discord. You can play in the online tournaments that I organize. And if you want, you can even play against me. Hey, how cool is that? And on top of that, you can also get your name into the end scroll. What end scroll? This end scroll.
What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Early in the morning. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises. Early in the morning. Putting in the longboat until he's sober. Putting in the longboat until he's sober. Putting in the longboat until he's sober. Early in the morning. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises. Early in the morning. Pull out the plug and wet him all over. Pull out the plug and wet him all over. Pull out the plug and wet him all over. Early in the morning. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises. Way, hey, and up she rises. Early in the morning. What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Put him in the scout to the hook, my son. Put him in the scout to the hook, my son. Put him in the scout to the hook, my son. Early in the morning. Way, hey, up she rises. Way, hey, up she rises. Way, hey, up she rises. Early in the morning.
Igitus figitus sumba kazee.